Let's talk Kamut pasta. Maybe you bought it before, you've loved it, and if that is the case, what I want to do today is I want to show you how simple it is to make this whole grain pasta at home. I'm going to also go over all the basics between, or the differences between, regular pasta made from refined flours and pasta made from Kamut flour. While there are many similarities, there are also a lot of differences as well. So I am Amy from A Red Spatula, and I am here to show you everything that you want to know about making homemade Kamut pasta. Now, of course, as always, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. You don't want to miss any of the new videos that are coming out. If you have questions, drop them in the comment section below. But also, if you have tried this recipe, I would love to hear how it went for you. This is one of my favorite pastas, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's start with the flour. Most pasta we see made these days is made with a blend of semolina flour and all-purpose or 00 flour. In contrast, this pasta that we're going to make today is made from 100% whole grain Kamut flour. Kamut is a golden colored wheat flour that is perfect for pasta making. Kamut is a larger grain. It's almost triple the size of your average white wheat or red wheat. Most people guess that Kamut came from the Fertile Crescent, so it easily qualifies as an ancient grain. Now let's go ahead and get started with the pasta dough now that we talked about the flour. So what you do, and this is just like any other egg-rich pasta dough, you're going to start with your flour and your salt. You mix them together on your surface, just as you can see I'm doing here. Now some people like to sift their wheat flour for a smoother dough. I do not do this. I don't mind a little bit of texture in mine. I would prefer to have the whole grain in there. So you mix your flour and your salt together, and then you're going to form a well inside of this. Now when I took a pasta making class in Rome recently, they said you want it to look like the Colosseum. So let's go ahead and do that. Now once you have your well created, what we're going to do is we add our eggs, our olive oil, and water into the center. You're going to mix these together really well. You want the eggs to be well blended before you start working with the flour. Okay, once the eggs are mixed in, now we're going to start pulling flour from the outside of our well, and we only pull a little bit of a flour at a time. We work with that flour that's mixed in with the eggs, and then we're going to pull in a little bit more. Just as a reminder, in case you forgot, pasta is a slow food. Don't rush this process. Enjoy it, take your time. If you don't have time on a weekday, do this on a weekend so you can really enjoy the process. So I'm going to leave this and I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. Now once the flour is incorporated, you're going to see it looks like a shaggy mess. That might cause you a little concern, but don't worry, this is exactly what we're looking for. Now you're going to switch from your fork to your hands, and we're going to start kneading the dough. You're going to knead this dough for about 1 minute. It's not going to be smooth, it's not going to be perfect, but that's fine. You're going to cover the dough, and you're going to let this sit for 10 to 15 minutes. This is important with any pasta dough, but especially when you're working with whole grain flour. And what this does is it hydrates your flour. It allows the dough to rest so that it's easier to work with. And in the case of whole grain flours, it also lets you see where you're at for moisture content. Whole grain flours absorb more moisture than your refined flours do. By letting your pasta dough rest for just a few minutes, you're giving it a chance to see how much moisture it's going to absorb. So at this point, I check the dough. You want it to be just a tiny bit sticky or tacky when you start kneading it. If it's not, add in another tablespoon or two of flour. Then we're going to start the whole kneading process. I don't know, I guess we already started it, but the lengthy kneading process. And what you're going to do is you're going to knead this dough for 6 to 10 minutes, just depending on how well you knead, how hard you knead, all of those things. So you're going to go ahead and start kneading, and I'll show you my technique. This is what it looks like. I push against the dough and against the surface and kind of stretch it just a little bit, pull it back on itself, turn it, and repeat that process over and over and over again. Then you can see what it looks like once it's smooth. I've rolled this into a round ball. Okay, and then we're going to cover this and we're going to let it sit for at least an hour to 2 hours. I typically like to let mine rest for at least an hour. At this point, you can shape your dough any way that you want. I shape mine into a fettuccine shape, which you're going to see here, using the pasta attachment on my Bosch mixer. You can also use a hand roller as well, or you can roll this by hand with a rolling pin. I'm going to link to both my pasta attachment and to my hand roller that I like to use. I use both depending on what I'm doing. And once it's all rolled out, I did fettuccine with mine, but you can also do filled pasta shapes like a tortellini, a ravioli. It makes delicious lasagna. It's one of my favorite things. And then just as a note about the differences between taste of pasta that's made with Kamut flour and taste and texture of those that are made with all-purpose or refined flours, you'll note that the Kamut flour is going to be just a little bit more dense. The Kamut pasta is going to be just a little bit more dense. It won't be too dense, of course. It still is a really light pasta, but it's going to be more so, of course, because it's a whole grain. They're denser and less refined. That's to be expected. The second thing is that you do not want to overcook Kamut pasta. I want to add this in there. You can do this with refined flour and it just gets really soft and kind of gross. Kamut pasta and other whole grain pastas will actually start to fall apart. They just aren't meant to withstand that much cooking. But the positives that I love about Kamut pasta and why I make it so often is it has this light nutty flavor, just like most whole grains do. This makes it a really delicious pasta to pair with a variety of sauces. Now, I didn't even touch, of course, on the health benefits of Kamut flour. There are many. It's a whole grain flour, and especially when you compare it to the ultra refined all-purpose flours. So what are you waiting for? Let's get into this.